Hey all! Yeah, I'm back in the van. Remember at the beginning of the water pump video where I talked about this thing being a diva and breaking when it wasn't going to be on camera anymore? Well, whether it's come out or not yet, I filmed a bit where I ended it with, yeah, I'm pretty much done working on the van for right now. I'm going to work on other projects. So guess what? It broke again. So I genuinely do have a diva van. Or a divan, I guess. But here's my latest problem. Having it the other day on the highway, and I was having a problem where part throttle into about 2/3 throttle, it would act like it was getting no gas or barely any gas. Like it would stutter or it wouldn't accelerate or whatever. And then if I really got into it all the way at the end, it would seem to like catch itself and go. So I basically had to drive an hour back from Boston at near constant full throttle. It was like on-off switch basically. Gas or nothing. Nothing in between, because nothing in between worked. And from what I've been reading online, I'm pretty sure it means my fuel pressure regulator here has gone bad, because that will prevent proper fuel pressure, which will mean that it only works at full flow through when basically the pressure regulator doesn't need to keep it adjusted right. So basically what's going on is that it's massively overfueling. Because the fuel pressure regulator seems to be bad. It also, in addition to not running properly when I'm driving it under load, the exhaust stinks of fuel. The injectors are spraying so much at idle that it's actually puddling on the blades. So yeah, I need to replace the fuel pressure regulator. I'm gonna have to order one, so it's gonna be a couple days before I can get that done. Unfortunately, the van is completely undrivable in its current state. I should have suspected something was up because the exhaust smelled a little bit rich, but I assumed it was a tuning issue. But I think it was the regulator going, and it's finally gone completely. And now it's a week later, but the parts arrived. So this is the new fuel pressure regulator. I just decided to go for the whole unit because the two things that fail in this are the diaphragm in here, which is easily and fairly cheaply replaceable, but also the spring in here goes, and both can produce similar results, and you can't buy the spring separately, and the rebuild kits don't seem to come with the spring. So the rebuild kits would have all the gaskets and stuff, but that doesn't seem to include the spring, so it's kind of irrelevant. So I just got the whole unit, and it came with a new gasket and O-ring and whatnot. I'm not even sure where some of these go, but yeah, we're gonna get this in, and then hopefully this will solve my problem. Alright, got it off, got all the gaskets scraped off. I'm sure it was boring to watch on time-lapse. Believe me, it was much more boring to scrape gasket in person. The big hassle was I couldn't let any gasket fall down into here, because that would go into the fuel injectors and almost certainly immediately clog them. So that was stressful. It got a little less stressful when I realized I could drop gasket down the throttle blades here, and it wouldn't matter. It'll just go in the engine, get burned up or shot out the exhaust. So that I didn't aim to put anything down there, but the stuff that fell down there no longer stressed me. So the three things, I'm pretty sure that this goes here, and this round thing goes there, and is just a foam piece to sort of protect the end of where the spring is, and then the other two gaskets are pretty obvious where they go. So I'm just gonna put that on. This doesn't take any sealant, these just go on. So yeah, we're just gonna do it. Alright, and it's back in, so let's fire it up and see what happens. Give the fuel pump a chance to fill everything. Obvious dripping. Don't see any. So, light, stay out of the engine. Alright, so it's running better in that it's running now. It's not just dying out, but it definitely has a bit of a surge and stumble to it still, so this wasn't the magic bullet solve every single problem that I was hoping it would be, but it's definitely improved the situation. I think I'm going to need to take it for a test drive. Alright, so it wasn't that, because I'm driving right now and I can drive under light throttle, but the minute I get into it starts doing this. And just surging and dying. And like the engine is still running right now, but I've got no so around town I have slight throttle, but no, there's a middle where I've got nothing, and it's really weird. It's like around town I have slight throttle, but then when I get into it anymore, it surges and dies. But if I put my foot to the floor, it'll climb out of it and really go. And it's very strange. The way I've been trying to describe it is it feels like there's something, like I'm driving with a 4-barrel and there's something wrong with the primaries where they're not fueling enough, but if I really get on it, I can get the secondaries to pop and I can basically drive at a full throttle on the secondaries. But obviously it's not what's going on, because this has got 2 fuel injectors and they're firing the whole time. There's not one, it's not a case of under full throttle the second injector kicks in. But I'm not sure what the heck this all means now, because this is the exact, the part didn't do anything. This is exactly what I was experiencing before. So I guess I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research, and hopefully I can figure out what the heck is going on. So it's the next day. I got on one of the van groups and asked about the problem I'm having, and a lot of other people have experienced a similar problem, and I've been told what it probably is. Talking to people on the group, it's the EGR valve, or it's the throttle position sensor, or it's the coil, or it's the temperature sensor, which I don't actually know where that is, or it's the fuel pump, or it's the hoses at the fuel pump having split or swelled. And in one particular case, I was told it's an idler pulley, which that one I don't really believe. But apparently all those other parts, temp sensor, fuel pump, fuel lines, EGR valve, and throttle position sensor, can all give the situation that I'm experiencing. And the only one I can test is the fuel related ones by getting a fuel pressure tester, hooking it up, and seeing if I have a consistent 15 pounds of pressure. That's the only one I can effectively test for. The rest of them are all swap the part out and see if it improves it. So yay, thank you GM. So I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do for, obviously I'm going to go test the fuel first, but I'm beyond that. I don't think it's the fuel. So I now have to figure out which one I think is more likely to be the issue. I may do things like pull and clean contacts and stuff like that, but right now it's probably going to be time to fire up the parts cannon and just blast this thing. So I rented the fuel pressure test kit so we can check that. I'm pretty sure that's not the problem, but I wanted to check it and rule it out. So we're going to do that now. I've actually already got it hooked up. So let's just run the test. This is teed into the main fuel line right here. I got my gauge right here, so we can see it. So now keying the ignition on. Well, that's interesting. Why do I have 0 fuel pressure? Let's just stop reading. Okay, so I do have fuel pressure, I just have virtually none. So it's looking like it might be fuel pressure because that arrow barely moves on the gauge. Obviously got to do a little bit more research because it doesn't seem like it's supposed to run at 15 psi, so it seems like if I have like the 1 or 2 that seems to be indicating that the van shouldn't even run at all, let alone rev or drive, and that really doesn't explain when I really get on it accelerating. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little more research, but it's looking more and more like I either have a bad fuel pump or some other fuel related issue rather than, or down that end of the van rather than here at the throttle body. So gonna continue trying to figure this out. Talk to you later. Bye.